Hi everybody, welcome back to the Seesaw and another week of family meals. So tonight I've got just some salmon cooked. So I made a little simple sauce with equal parts of orange juice, honey and soy sauce. And then I added a little bit of ginger and a little bit of garlic to that to season it up. And I just poured half of it over some salmon fillets and then I just baked them in the oven for about 15 minutes. And while that was doing, I put the other half of the sauce in a little saucepan, brought it to a boil, just let it cook for about 5 minutes to thicken it up and make it a bit of syrupy. And then when the salmon came out of the oven, I just poured the rest of the sauce over the top. And with it, I've just got a package of the ready-to-wok udon noodles. So these are the thick noodles. And then a package of frozen stir-fry veg, which I've just cooked through. So I cooked the veg, stirred through the noodles, and then I added a little bit of soy sauce and a little bit of sweet chili sauce to give it some nice flavour. So I was late home from work tonight as I had a late meeting. So this was on the table when I got home less than an hour ago, and I've changed clothes and chatted to the family and all of that as well as making dinner. So quite quick and easy to get on the table. And just some nice fresh flavours to start the week. So Monday night we've got honey soy baked chicken. It's not even chicken, that's how tired I am. It's salmon with some stir fry noodles and veg. Hi everybody, it is Tuesday evening and tonight we've got satay chicken stir fry. So this is again quite a simple sort of dish for a midweek supper. I used a can of coconut milk, which I used the lighter one, and then I whisked that together with about 75 grams of crunchy peanut butter, 2 tablespoons of sweet chili sauce and a tablespoon of soy sauce. So I just whisked that all together until it was all well combined and then set it to one side. I then added to a large skillet or a wok a tablespoon of oil and cooked some sliced chicken breast until it was completely cooked through. So on a reasonably high heat, just cooked it all the way through. Took the chicken out of the pan, added another tablespoon of olive oil, of vegetable oil, and then cooked a sliced onion for about 2 minutes, added in a couple of sliced carrots for another 2 minutes, then added in a broccoli head which I'd cut up into quite small florets, and a little splash of water, and let that cook for another couple of minutes. And then I added in some, Caleb hasn't got any, but you can see some mange tout on there on mine, a good handful of those. I added the chicken back in and the sauce mixture and just let it all cook together just again for a couple more minutes until the mange tout were cooked and the sauce was nicely bubbling and combined with everything. And then I've just cooked to have with that some rice noodles, which are the really fine noodles. You just pour boiling water over them and 3 minutes they're done. So really quick and simple side dish to go with it. So looking forward to this. That's Caleb's. He doesn't have any mange tout as he doesn't like those. And then that is mine. I'm having mine in a bowl on top of the noodles. So sort of Asian, Chinesey, satay. It's not Chinese, is it? Satay Thai? Yes, I think it is. Having a complete brain blip there as to where satay comes from. I think it's Thai food. But yes, nice peanutty I can't even speak now. Peanutty satay sauce on chicken and vegetables for our Tuesday night tea. Hi everybody, so it's Wednesday evening and tonight we've got sort of like a fish pie but without the potato topping. And we're having it with chips. Now this is another one of those dishes that's quite hard to make it look attractive on the plate, but it is really tasty. So all I did was I chopped up a couple of leeks, put them in a pan with a little bit of olive oil on a really low heat and just let them cook for about 10 minutes until they were nicely softened. I then made a white sauce with a tablespoon each of butter and flour, whisked that together, added in about 250 ml or so of milk just until it was the right consistency. Then I stirred through a teaspoon of English mustard and about 120 grams of grated cheese to give it a nice cheesy flavour, and a little bit of black pepper, a pinch of black pepper. Then I put a package of the frozen fish pie mix in the bottom of a casserole, put the leeks on top of that along with a handful of frozen peas, poured the cheesy sauce over the top of that, and then I just topped it with some dry breadcrumbs popped it in the oven for about 25 minutes on 200 degrees, just until the fish was nicely cooked through. So you've got all the flavours of the fish pie, but without the mashed potato topping. We had football practice tonight, so I just didn't really have time to go the whole hog and make mashed potatoes and wait for those to cook and then prepare the filling and top it all and wait for it to bake in the oven. So it's sort of a deconstructed fish pie, I guess, with chips on the side. These are just frozen oven chips that I did in the actor fryer. So yeah, a Wednesday night fish supper for us. Hi everybody, it's Thursday evening, and for supper tonight we've got my take on a Greek pistachio. If you haven't tried pistachio before, it's kind of like a Greek lasagna, the best way I can describe it. It's got layers, and if I show you the big pot there, you can see it's quite deep and it's got lots of layers in it. So at the bottom you've got some cooked macaroni pasta, and then when the pasta is cooked you just take it out, put it into the bottom of your casserole dish and stir through it about 40 grams of butter, which you just chop into small pieces, and about 100 to 125 grams of grated cheese. So this is for about 300 grams of macaroni. You just stir that all together so it makes it a bit like macaroni cheese, but it's just butter and cheese in it, not any kind of sauce. And then on top of that you put your meat sauce, and this is a simple meat sauce. It's onion with just softened for a couple of minutes in a little bit of oil. Then you add your mince. I've used, as always, turkey mince, but you could use beef mince, you could use lamb mince for this, which both of those would be quite common Greek meats. Then once that's browned, after 5 or 6 minutes, you want to add in a couple of tablespoons of tomato puree, along with about a teaspoon of cinnamon, and that's what gives it that Greek kind of flavour. It's quite specific to pistachio. And then you want to add, once that's all combined together, you want to add a can of chopped tomatoes. Just stir it all together and let it just bubble away for about 10 minutes. While that's doing, you want to make a bechamel sauce. Now, a bechamel sauce is much like a white sauce, except you stir an egg through it, so it is thicker and a little bit stodgier than a white sauce. So you make a basic white sauce as you would any other sauce by melting about 60 grams of butter, stirring through about 40 grams of plain all-purpose flour, and just letting that cook together for about a minute while you stir it. Then you want to take it off the heat and whisk in about 500 mils of milk, which you've just warmed through. Now I just put mine in a jug and put it in the microwave for a minute or so to warm it through, and just add it like gradually, but stir it, but not on the heat. Then put it back on the heat, bring it to a boil, and just let it thicken up a little bit. So you don't want it too thick, probably a couple of minutes simmering while you stir it. Then take it off the heat again, and you want to get a whisk and whisk in quite quickly a beaten egg. It doesn't have to be, really well combined, but just beaten like as if you were making an omelette or scrambled eggs or something. Whisk that through, so you don't want it to turn into scrambled eggs. You need to whisk it quite quickly. And then I added about 50 grams of Parmesan cheese to that as well, and stirred that through. Traditional on top of that is to add a little bit of grated nutmeg. I thought I had some nutmegs in the cupboard, but I didn't, so I did just add a little bit of black pepper instead. And then you layer it up. So on top of your macaroni and the cheese and butter mixture, you put your meat sauce, and then on top of that you pour over your bechamel. And just smooth it out at the top. Now bechamel, if it's done right, sort of looks like, when you pour it over, sort of looks like cake mixture, cake batter. So it is a lot thicker than a white sauce. And then pop the whole thing in the oven for about 25 minutes. Now I cooked mine on 160 fan, but that would be 180 C if you were just doing it on the normal temperatures. And you can see I've made this in quite a deep, this is an old Wedgwood casserole dish that I've had for about 100 years, I think, maybe, give or take. And so it's quite deep, but it's not too broad. So you don't really want to use a big lasagna pan, as it would be too spread out. So if you've got a casserole where you can keep it all together, but it is deep enough to put your layers in, that's ideal. But yep, really tasty. A Greek pistachio for our Thursday night tea. Hi everybody, so it's Saturday evening, and tonight we're going back to good old American diner food. So if you remember a few weeks back, Caleb and I made grilled cheese the American way, and tonight we're having something called patty melts. Now it's a bit like a burger, but not quite. So a paddy melt is you make a burger shape, but I've made these into squares, so they're bread shaped. All it is mince. I've used turkey, obviously, but you would normally use minced beef for this. All I added to it was some garlic, a little bit of salt and pepper, and some Worcestershire sauce. So a sprinkle of each. Mixed it all together, made it into the patty shapes. Cooked those for about 3 or 4 minutes on each side. That was all they needed to get cooked through. Just a tiny bit of oil in the pan. And then I had some sliced onion that I put into a small skillet with a little bit of butter on a really low heat, and I just let it go for about 20 minutes. And then I made a sauce which has equal parts of mayonnaise and mustard, and I used honey Dijon mustard. So I had a 1/4 cup of each, and then a tablespoon of barbecue sauce and a good sprinkling of hot sauce to kick it up a little bit. So then you just layer it up. So you take white bread. You definitely need white bread for this. Sourdough would be good, but I've used this thick kind of toasty loaf for this. And then you put a layer of the sauce on the bread. You then put some onions. You then put some cheese. You then put your patty. You then put another piece of bread with a layer of the sauce spread on the inside of it. And then you put the whole sandwich into a skillet with a little bit of butter, and you cook it for 2 or 3 minutes on each side. Now you layer it the wrong way so that after you've flipped the sandwich, it's the right way up for serving. So that's what they look like on the inside. Caleb has got ketchup in his because he doesn't like mustard, so he's not having the special sauce. But you can see he's also got orange cheese on his, and we're having it with some chips done in the active fryer. So American diner food for a Saturday night, paddy melts with chips. Hey everybody, so it's Sunday evening again, and tonight we've got Crockpot barbecue chicken with mashed potatoes and sweet corn. So these chicken thighs, I just seared them off in a pan for about 4 or 5 minutes each side, just to make the skin crispy before I put them in the crock pot. And then I made a simple sauce with a bottle of barbecue sauce. I used the honey barbecue. If I'd used ordinary barbecue sauce, I would have probably added some honey in it to sweeten it up a bit. So honey barbecue sauce with just a tiny bit of mustard, a tiny bit of Worcestershire sauce, a dash or 2 of that, and a little sprinkle of hot sauce, just to give it a bit of a boost in flavour. Poured that over the chicken and just left it to cook all afternoon. So it's been in the crock pot for about 4 or 5 hours on low. Because the chicken was seared before it went in, it's completely cooked through. Even though normally if you were putting raw chicken in, especially chicken on a bone, you'd want to leave it for 6 or 7 hours on low. But this has been plenty of time. So a simple Sunday night supper of crockpot barbecue chicken with mashed potatoes and sweet corn. We had a rugby day today, so we've had rugby training this morning. Then we came home to watch the first game for England in the Rugby World Cup. Then we had homework to do and reading to do and all of those sorts of things. So it's been a busy day, and we're looking forward to dinner, just to round off our weekend. So thank you for joining us for another week of Meals on the Seesaw, and we hope to see you back here soon.